something different. It's in a market and it's a leader. Baozun is a Chinese e-commerce service provider as they help companies do all aspects of the e-commerce value chain. That includes marketing services, IT, supply chain management, customer services and management, and marketing strategies. With that, Baozun, what their general company does is they gain brand partners, and when they have a brand partner, they help them expand on e-commerce in China. So something that's really interesting about the company is they help Western brands such as Nike, such as Microsoft, such as Philips, very reputable firms expand in China, and they also help current major firms in China expand on that. Alibaba even has 17% stake in the company, which I think gives the company a lot of credibility. With e-commerce growing rapidly in China, with GDP growing at 6.2% year over year, and the Chinese middle class growing greatly in numbers, I thought this company has a spot that it can capture this trend, and it can also do it better than all their competitors, as they have 25% market share. One more thing before I get into my drivers. Baozun generates revenues from two sources. One of them is product sales, and the other one is their services. In their product sales, they help their brand partners sell their products, kind of like what Amazon and Alibaba do, and they do one-day delivery, and that has caused their operating expenses to be pretty high. So in the last 2 years, specifically in 2019, they have shifted more into the services, as that has helped them improve their growth rates a lot, and they're growing at a 3-year CAGR of 25.4% in revenues, while at the same time their net income grew at 125%. So that shows that as they're growing smart and they're growing well. Chinese evolution is the first driver I want to touch on. Like I said earlier, China is experiencing a 6.2% year-over-year growth in GDP for the second quarter of 2019, as they remain the fastest major growing economy in the world. Looking even more promising is that Baozun is poised to capitalize on this growth in the Chinese retail market, online retail market. Last year, retail sales online grew at 24%, and that growth is expected to continue. And Baozun is a market leader, as they have 25% market share, which is 1/3 higher than any of their major competitors. Therefore, Baozun is poised to capitalize on this growth in China, on their e-commerce, and on their middle-class growth. The second really important driver is that Baozun is a brand giant. They have expertise across apparel, fast-moving consumer goods, electronics, and cosmetics, and their ability to innovate across the evolving sector continues to prove that Baozun is a great company. They rely on technological innovation to help their brand partners. A major trend that they're planning on capturing is Western brands looking to expand on Chinese e-commerce, and also current China companies expanding in China. The last driver I want to talk about is that they're technology driven. Baozun integrates cloud computing, AI, big data. Those are all platforms in which Baozun prides itself on, and this not only gives them efficiency and the ability to do things faster and better, but it also attracts brands. Like I said earlier, Nike, Microsoft, Philips, over 200 companies now are part of their conglomeration of brands, and the growth in brands has increased massively in the last 3 years, 150 in 2017 to 185 in 2018, and now the last report they read was 212 in 2019, and 2019 quarter 2 just reported that. Now moving to my valuation, I did 4 models. I did a 5-year DCF. I did a price of sales, a price to book, and a PE. I weighted those, the PE and my DCF at 40% and the other 2 at 10%. At first I wasn't going to add the price to book, but I noticed that I got a very big upside with my other 3 models and wanted to see how consistent that was with other valuation measures, and using the price to book and getting another really big upside just proves that Baozun is growing and that they're undervalued. The last thing that I want to talk about before I open the floor to questions is their management. Vincent Redden Q founded Baozun in 27, and that he is currently still the CEO and chairman. This shows that for him, Baozun is his baby, it's his pride, and he wants to watch it grow and prosper, and the success of the company is very important to him. So I think that is another really big bonus that Baozun offers. I would now like to open the floor to questions.
I'll ask the first question here. And this is a teaching moment for juniors. We're learning about relative valuation, and it's important to have a peer group that you feel comfortable with. So talk about your peer group that you selected here.
So when I first started screening for the competitors, I noticed that a bunch of the comps were private and small, and I didn't think that those would be good for a valuation measure. So what I decided to do was dig into other IT tech firms that provide similar services that Baozun provides. I thought that, especially with Baozun shifting to more of their service model and leaving that product sales more on the back end of their mission, that having IT companies that do similar things that Baozun does is a better way to do a relative valuation in this case.
Okay, I'll take a little bit of a follow-up to that. I know at some point you'll probably talk about your WAC.
Mhm.
You had to add some sort of country risk premium. I noticed that a lot of your peers do tend to be US-based.
Yes.
When you did your peer comparison,
Mhm.
did you make any type of an adjustment there for the fact you have a Chinese stock and these
Yes.
really aren't?
Yeah, so when I first started, I noticed Bloomberg had a WAC of 12.4%, which is very high, while Baozun's competitors WACs were around 7 and 8. After talking with Walker and Krausla, I learned that it was important to have a country risk premium, but because we are in the U.S. buying an ADR, that country risk premium is not as important, so I just ended up using a really high market risk premium and got my WAC of 10.
Gino, you're first.
You talked about the management a little bit, and I agree with you. Is there any succession plan with them, or any indication of them leaving the company?
There's no indication of that.
Any succession plan?
Sure, so follow up, I guess, on the equity risk premium question. Do you know if this is a VIE and how that factored into your assessment?
A DIE.
VIE, variable interest entity. So it's a structure used by Chinese firms to list in the U.S. where U.S. shareholders don't actually own any of the assets or cash flows. Most ADRs here are under that.
Most do that. Okay, I'll have to look into that, but I did not learn.
All right, question, Joe?
Follow up to that question.
All right.
With due respect to my colleagues, just because it's an ADR, it doesn't remove you from the country risk whatsoever.
Okay.
All it does is it lets you trade it in a different country. And so my concern right now is very similar. We're going to stay in this thread. I have other concerns, but I think this thread's really important for teaching. I don't see any Chinese comps, and Chinese typically stocks trade at a discount to their American counterparts. So with respect, I'm worried that your comps are overinflating value.
Okay.
You made a strong case for cloud computing. That was, if we're going to stay in the U.S., why isn't there a company like Veeam or something that does cloud, right? If we're going to stay in China, why don't we have GD or PDD or some sort of comp?
Okay.
And then when you take the WAC and you actually reduce it, that's the wrong way to go. If it's got a WAC at a certain price, and now you're worried about risk of a country or risk of other problems, you actually increase the WAC. You don't reduce it just because their American peers are lower. That doesn't really follow proper practice.
So, MK, you got a large upside here. So
Yeah.
probably be good is to try to get a peer group that might be a bit more similar.
Okay.
Yeah, the good news is
More
cloud
Chinese.
computers actually, like B trades at an 80 PE. You actually have some low-hanging fruit available. You just didn't make use of it.
Okay.
It might still
Thanks.
be okay.
Yeah, still might be able to get the upside. We just strongly disagree.
Yeah.
55% upside.
Yeah, big upside.
Gives you some room there.
China's so big.
Question, Ellen?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they're touching on how you had such a large upside. Can you just give me more color as to what your last 2 years of your DCF look like, just judging off of what you are projecting as an upside?
So for 2022 and 2023, I did slow the growth a little bit and had my margins be similar to what they were the 2 years before that. I thought it was important to show that this company is still growing and it's still growing fast. So that's, I don't have my model up here with me, but I can show you more what the numbers are.
Go ahead, Patrick.
I just wanna know what you're seeing that the street isn't, given your upside is 30% higher. What are you incorporating in future cash flows that they aren't?
So my DCF didn't give me as high of an upside as my relative valuations. I think a lot of what Wall was saying, having Chinese companies may have had a better peer group to maybe lessen my upside. With that being said, I think the upside is still great, and I think that this company would really do well in our portfolio.
Back there.
Yeah, one of your risks is with brand partners. Do you have what percentage of their revenues is with their top 10 or top 5 or anything like that?
No, but a lot of their revenues is from their brands. As I said, that their services revenue is increasing greatly. They have a service fee model, so they get a percentage of their brand's revenue, and they also, if their saloon product sales get that revenue, that is a risk. But as they are also increasing how many brands that they partner with, they are also increasing what type of brands that they partner with and making sure that they are high value and that those are going to help them in the future.
So this company supports their clients who want to improve their e-commerce presence.
Yes.
So is there a technology element that becomes important for this company, or is it more their creative talent that they're able to bring to their clients?
I think it's both. I think what's important is that they are bringing their high-end technology and them integrating it so much, such as they opened in 2017 a research and innovation center. I think that gives them an upper hand in their services, and at the same time, I think it attracts their brands to them.
The business model, how do they get compensated? Is it for producing brand and content for clients, or is there some sort of subscription base, or,
Yeah, so
is it one-time revenue or a continuing stream per customer?
they have 3 types of revenues. One is from their product sales, which they own and sell, and then from their services, they have 2 different revenues. One's a consignment model, where they hold them in their warehouses and sell them for their clients, but and then the other one is their service fee, where their general merchandising volume, they get a percentage of revenues from their brand partners.
Okay, we can do one more question if there's any out there. All right, MK, thank you. All right, our third presenter, another consumer discretionary, Nathan Rivello. Don't call him Nate.
There goes the soccer team. Okay, guys, let's get a W. There's women are going, here go the men. We're playing St. John's tonight, so. Give them that. Somebody's gonna win 1-0, right? Let's just go to the tiebreaker. I'm sorry, Nathan, yes? Yes. All right, good to see you. All right, so I'm Nathan, I'm a senior in the program, studying domestic consumer discretionary. And I think I'm pitching Dana Incorporated, ticker DAN. I think before I start explaining what the company is, I kind of want to talk about how it's screened. I just think it's beneficial for the juniors in the room to know kind of how the process is done, and the seniors to kind of see where I got my idea from. So going in this pitch, I knew that dealing with the consumer discretionary sector would be tough, and I would need to find a company that would do well when people aren't spending their disposable income. Consumer discretionary does really well in home market, as we've seen over the past 10 years. So, really in the portfolio, the consumer discretionary sector has outperformed a lot, almost all of the sectors. So, that being said, I know there's companies in the portfolio currently that are prone to a lot of downside given what is on the horizon. So today, I knew I wanted to be I didn't want to do entertainment. I did not want to do restaurants. Last semester I pitched an auto company. So I thought this would be a good place to start. So I knew I wanted to do the automotive aftermarket auto part industry. So from that I went on to FactSet. I screened automotive aftermarket companies in the rest of 2000. Came up with about like 20 that I liked. And I looked at the fundamental ratios, kind of the income statement balance sheet that FactSet provides, estimates, and then I also look at value mutual funds. And on FactSet you could look at their holdings and see kind of what's in it and if there's any connection between the two. So with that I found Dana Incorporated. Dana basically provides car parts to original equipment manufacturers, or OEMs. So when I say OEM, think Ford, think GM. So OEM's that. So I'm going to be saying that. And I kind of want to break down the segments, the revenue segments, just because it is kind of confusing to understand. I kind of expect that you've all read the pitch and kind of understand the company kind of. So the first segment is their light vehicle segment. It's about 40% of the revenue. And this market consists of light trucks, vans, and passenger cars. So, for example, the OEM Ford comes to Dana and they buy parts for their F-150, the Ford F-150. And that's how Dana makes their revenue. So, pretty self-explanatory. So going on, the next segment is commercial vehicles. This is medium and heavy-duty trucks and buses. And then furthermore, the off-highway, which is construction and earth-moving vehicles. So kind of what to take away from this is that they kind of deal with all the auto parts, providing auto parts for very small vehicles to very large vehicles. And another thing to consider is that they provide service to every continent that vehicles drive on. So despite being headquartered in the U.S., they're international. They're pretty international. So for now, I kind of want to get into kind of the recent acquisitions that they've made over the past few years, because that will kind of flow into my drivers. So over the past few years, Dana's made several acquisitions to both grow the current product line and to grow the electric vehicle kind of product line. So they've been purchasing a lot of EV, electric vehicle auto part companies to kind of get into that area. I know we see like Tesla every day, and we're just assuming that these big OEMs are going to come out with these brand new electric vehicle, all electric cars to be a competitor with Tesla and the mega trend we see from shifting from gas to electric. That's not really that true. They do want to shift, and we've seen this. However, it's going to take years and years for these big OEMs to shift from gas to hybrid to electric. So Dana believes that by investing in these EV auto part companies, that they can help with that transition. So for example, my first driver is they did a deal with Ferrari. Ferrari just is coming out with their brand new hybrid vehicle. It's their fastest car ever, and Dana helped with the transmission. This doesn't really help revenue just because Ferraris are low volume, but it does show, and also that is priced into the stock price apparently, but it does show that Dana can work with the best and very high-end dealerships. Their acquisitions do have ties to other high-end dealers, so whenever these high-end dealers want to switch to electric, Dana will probably be first on the list. My second driver kind of highlights the fact that Dana will have the ability to work on a wide range of vehicles where the OEMs choose to switch from gas to electric. So, for a couple of reasons. First, the acquisition gives Dana the ability to work on all type of electric car parts. So each acquisition had its specific car parts, and they're all over. This can be paired with the fact that they already have an understanding of a wide range of vehicles, which I mentioned earlier in the pitch. These electric car parts can be applied to the pre-existing understanding of gas vehicles to make the transition from hybrid to gas or to electric, from gas to electric, or from gas to hybrid to electric, pretty smooth. So that's kind of, I wanted to tell the story about how the company kind of sees the future and how they'll hopefully be making money going forward. I kind of want to stay away from just who the company is, because at the end of the day, it's the story that matters. So if you want me to mention about my model or risks or anything on management, I can, but I can.
Great. Question. All right. Good. So let's do that. Risks. Certainly you'll address GM. GM's still on strike. Yeah. This is one of their largest customers, so I'd like you to address that. Sure. And also, we do know that auto parts and cars, auto parts move from the United States to Mexico, components come back and forth, back and forth. What about NAFTA and USMCA? Is that a concern?
So I'll start off with the NAFTA question. According to the earnings call, Dan doesn't believe that NAFTA will hurt their company that much. They believe that the outcome is not going to hurt them. But to get to the GM point, so Dana's actually had a relationship with GM for 113 years. So it's been a pretty long relationship. And so the current strike is about 49,000 employees, and it's been going on for about 18 days. There's been strikes in GM's history that have been way larger. So, for example, in 1970, when they were still doing business with Dana, there was a 400,000 person strike. This happened for 67 days. There's been multiple strikes in GM's history. This one's kind of based on wage, and GM believes that just due to the current nature of the strike, it won't do that much harm on their business, so I don't see that as much of a risk. They do, however, if you guys want to know, they're the third largest customer to Dana, and they account for 4% of the revenue. 4%.
GM and then Shane.
So I don't really know how to word this, but looking at the cash flow statement, their days sales of inventory increased by 13 days over the last 3 years. What type of mitigants does the company have in place to like either reduce that number or keep it constant? Because it seems like your first two drivers are going to be bringing in more products that they're going to be offering, which would like assume that that's going to increase even more. Is there any mitigants in place? And if you just highlight that.
Yeah, well, when I look at that, I kind of see, so when we're looking at Dana, and to go back, they were declining in revenue for 2014. And then they made these acquisitions, and the revenue bumped up to double digit. So I think the acquisitions are kind of the reason for this inventory turnover. So I believe once they become more familiar with that, then I think I would assume it would improve. But there's a lot changing with the company right now.
Shane. Yeah, we're going to keep going. Shane.
Can you explain what happened in August when the company lost almost 50% in value?
Yeah, so I was doing my research on this. Even over the past year, they tried acquiring a company for $6 billion that ended up failing. They actually moved from the U.S. to Europe, and they were going to shift their headquarters out of the United States, and it ended up falling through. That paired with kind of the market consensus that there will be a decline in the automotive, just like every other discretionary sector. But you just have to take that
I
out.
think that's really a problem. This is a $2 billion market cap company,
Yeah,
and they made an acquisition to acquire a
they planned on it. They were going to do that with like shares. And I actually had it in one of the old versions of my write-up, but yeah.
Okay, who's next over here?
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question going up to your thoughts. Using your EPS and your PE, you've come up with like several different stock prices. What stock price do you use to calculate your value?
Yeah, so I used the stock price has been volatile over a couple of days, so that could have been a mistake on me. Just updating my model for. I've been working on this pitch for a couple of weeks, so.
Okay, so I guess a follow-up on it.
Sure.
The increase in EPS and the increase in PE as well going into this year. moving forward, having, I think you got the stock price that puts the stock price at like 1630, it's straight out like 1360.
Yeah, I'll have to get that. Yeah, we'll do the math.
I just have a few, like, really quick ones. Do you know they're, just talking on the acquisitions, do you know what their inorganic versus organic growth is?
Okay, so I went to Dr. Wall to sort this out. I went into the 10K. I tried looking for what their revenue of these different acquisitions was, how much it attributed to. I tried my best. I couldn't. I tried. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Should have returned home. It would
I
have
know.
been better.
Yeah.
And then just talking on your first risk, do they convert everything back to the US dollar? And then
Yes.
Did you look at any trends with sales and earnings and how currencies fluctuate between what they reported?
I do think there's. I did not, but I do think that we should consider the risk of the dollar being strong, given that there's so it goes North America. The regions is North America, Europe, South America, and then Asia Pacific in that order. So just with Europe, just something to consider.
Right here, Michael.
What do you think of governance? 20 members of the board is the right number? Too much, too little?
I think that would be too much. I think a board should typically be between 8 to 10. That's my personal opinion. I do think it is a lot of people. I also thought it was interesting that their CFO, I believe, is just very young. It's like 35. So I did just some research on that. It's pretty interesting.
Follow on that, the ESG rating is double B.
Double B. It's towards the lower end of it's. I'd say the industry average is like just B. So yeah. That's
Questions? We have a couple more. Like, well,
Sure. Let's see where we go. The company has a, as you keep noting, has a pretty volatile price and earnings history.
Hmm.
So, and then suddenly in your model, I see that it all nicely smooths out going forward and becomes really clean. I wonder why you chose to use a price to sales ratio to measure it, and maybe not an EDM. Don't they pay out like 3% dividends?
2.8.
Yeah, or some, price to sales we typically use in a recovery, so that's good. But usually it's, when I see it, it's more for growth situations when the recovery is more clear. What evidence do you have that this would be an appropriate application for price to sales at this point in there? Especially given the number of economic forecasts that say car industry might be maxing out.
I agree. Yeah, so originally I went into the pitch wanting to do a PE and EBITDA. When I put those in my models, it gave my upside over 100%. And then I went on to weight the
peers.
Yeah. But then, so the peers I chose, I know there's two different, we talked about some class today, there's two different kind of auto companies. There's ones that kind of fix the car, like you go in, you get your car fixed, and then there's type that kind of relies on the OEM. And from what my point of view on this company is that all my comps are of that type, and not the type. So I do think these are good comps for the pitch.
okay, so Nathan, final question, and kind of a two-parter. First of all, this company does acquisitions and has made acquisitions.
Correct.
So it's important to know how good management is in executing on those and getting the synergies. So I want you to comment on that. And finally, give us your best rationale for why this is a good fit for the fund now.
Sure. So I do think they're doing a good job with these acquisitions because they're not financing them through debt, they're financing them through cash on hand, which kind of transitions into why this company would be good. In the current portfolio, there's stocks, and I mentioned this before, but in the consumer discretionary sector, domestic, there are companies that would take a hit a lot harder than an auto company, just with higher beta, with and like, for example, like Superior Auto or Superior Group, that's a high-end retail, that would just be exactly.
Yeah, if you're real quick, we can do it.
You mentioned they financed their acquisitions through cash on hand, yet they took out $600 million in debt in March. How do you explain?
Okay, so when I looked at the the acquisitions, at least the ones that I talked about in the pitch, so it's the ones with cash on hand, but they've been doing multiple other acquisitions that I didn't.
So is that 614 million specifically for acquisition?
Nathan, thank you very much.
All right, Danny Spur. We're gonna do real estate in the US here, right?
Yep.
Hi, Danny.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here. Dr. Krause said, my name is Danny Smers. I'm a senior in the program here. I cover both international financial services and domestic real estate. And before I begin, I'd also like to thank my AIM mentee, Tommy, for his help and contribution with this pitch as well. So when I was screening on my reads, my decision process was kind of looking for something with a higher dividend yield, strong fundamentals, and then ability to perform / weather economic downturn. And kind of within the self-storage industry, they tend to perform well. There's a kind of an analogy, the 4 Ds: death, divorce, dislocation, and downsizing. So all those help contribute to the performance and occupancy rates for REIT, specifically storage. So this all led me to NSA. So NSA is a self-administered, self-managed REIT dedicated to the ownership, operation, and acquisition of self-storage facilities. And as a whole, the self-storage industry is pretty consolidated. As you can see in my comps, I have 5 different players between NSA, Extra Space Storage, Life Storage, Public Storage, and then also CubeSmart. And those pretty much make up the entire public sector of storage REITs. While it is consolidated, it is very fragmented as well. Those 5 companies make up roughly 15% of the total storage REIT share, and the rest 85% is private ownership. And kind of at an industry level, to just kind of give you a picture of NSA, kind of how they stack up. The industry, the annual revenue is $38 billion. The number of total storage facilities is between 45 and 52,000. And there's over 1.7 billion rentable square feet. So you can kind of see in my introduction how NSA compares. So as I mentioned, 85% of the storage REIT industry is under private ownership. But while some might see this as a downside, I actually see this as an upside for NSA because they're specifically able to penetrate the private storage industry through the operating structure of the company. So how NSA does this is they contract with PROs who are participating regional officers, and currently NSA has 13 of these. And basically PROs are individuals who own a private storage facility but kind of want some of the resources that NSA can offer. So some of these are like revenue management, data analytics, marketing support, stuff like that. So they get the exposure from these different programs, but NSA still allows them to have an active role within their storage facility. And this is beneficial because ultimately these people, these 13 PROs have the best knowledge of the industry that they're in and are able to execute on that. So kind of how NSA does this transaction is these PROs are given OP units, which are basically equal to common shares in the company, as well as SP units, which are basically performance-based additions to that as well. So, of course, they're encouraged to perform well as they'll get a higher distribution from these SP units. And this is also key because this is done on a tax-deferred transaction. So overall, these PROs, when you look at NSA's structure with them compared to the competitors, it's very different because the 4 other competitors that I have listed will come in, usually take out management. They're not able to leverage the expertise of these people in the local market, and the name will be changed. which is kind of a discourse with people within the area. So while in addition to these PROs, they're not just anybody, they're high quality individuals. On average, they have over 25 years of experience. And in order for NSA to even consider them, they must manage at least 20 storage facilities in the top 100 metropolitan areas within the U.S. with property valued at over 100 million. So this kind of speaks to the quality that NSA goes after. In terms of acquisitions, NSA is pretty heavy with them. Traditionally, NSA has been more focused in the West and then also Sunbelt states, but they made a huge point to diversify their portfolio a bit with their joint acquisition with Heitman in Q2 of 2018, in which they have a 25% stake. This added 8.7 million square feet to their total portfolio, which is roughly about 46 million right now. And these are also high-quality units with 92% occupancy rates and an average of $13.26 per square foot. Follow that up to Q1 of 2019, and they kind of decided to add a little bit more to their core portfolio, as it traditionally has been, with acquisitions that focus in Palm Beach, Louisiana, and Georgia. In terms of some of the figures of NSA versus their competitors, their same-store revenue growth has averaged 4 to 5%. It's estimated to be 4 to 5% for 2019. Net operating growth of 4.5 to 5.5%, while maintaining operating expenses at only a 2.6% growth. And this exceeds the competitors in almost every category. You can take a look at my valuation, but I used a dividend discount model and priced funds from operation. And with that, I'll open the floor up to questions.
All right, I'll ask the first question here. I'd say you used the DDM, and that's totally appropriate for a REIT. And the payout is 3.9% or something?
3.92%.
Yeah, pretty attractive. What's the history of the payout?
The history of the payout has been pretty high and consistent. REITs, on average, are required to pay out 90% of their operating income in order to be considered a REIT. So with that being said, I kind of stabilized the dividend growth going forward with the general market, with public storage being the biggest. I kind of took that into consideration. So that's how I came to my value.
Okay, thank you. Gino?
I like your second driver a lot. I think it makes sense. But you mentioned they have to become a PRO or a club, they have to go through stringent requirements. Yep. What are those requirements?
Yeah, so those requirements are just a screen. They have to be, of course, in quality growth areas with those metropolitan areas. And then they have to, obviously they consider the established history of how long these people have been operating these storage facilities. An average tenure above 25 years. So that's kind of how they go about that.
Any other metrics on profitability? You talk about the effective or the efficiency rate, but for the occupancy rates, does that have a factor in any of their?
Yeah, so they won't go. They're different in the fact that they won't go below 80% occupancy rates. So these are really quality areas that are already established. So yeah.
Okay, let's help everyone understand this. Let's suppose me, personally, I'm owning some self-storage units out in Waukesha.
Yep.
And now NSA is interested in partnering with me.
Mm-hmm.
I would get OP and SP.
Correct.
When I get OP, what does that do for me?
I get exactly common shares within the company.
So it is shares.
Yep.
And then the SP is a performance. So I'm motivated to do a good job.
Yep.
Then I can get an incentive for that.
Additional distributions.
Okay. Michael.
Yeah, I'd love to follow up on the incentive part of it. It's not a business model I'm familiar with. It seems really interesting.
Mhm.
How much of the economics from good performance gets captured by these PROs? So NSA is getting great local expertise. How much of their income are they giving up on the other side? And yeah, I'd love for you to compare the economics of sort of acquiring existing properties, which is happening here, versus I think public storage does all new build stuff.
Yeah.
So just talk generally about that would be helpful.
So in terms of like the distributions of SP units, how that kind of goes?
Yeah, so let's say performance is great,
Yep.
earnings are up 10% over whatever NSA underwrote to. Does the PRO capture half of that? Do they capture a quarter of it? How much of any good performance actually goes back to?
In other words, you're giving me too much.
Yeah.
I was asking you in the office. right?
Yeah, so I was looking at that in, I believe 2018 on the 10K, they distributed about 42 million to preferred shareholders. I don't know if that was a subset of the SP units, but I mean, to kind of do an analysis on that, I mean, it's been accretive to their funds from operation per share. So I think it's definitely manageable and something they're able to do over time. But for like specific figures, I have to get back to that.
And how would you compare, public storage, which obviously best in class operator, ROIC 14%, does almost entirely new builds. How do you compare the lower return on investment here as a result of sort of acquiring these existing properties?
Yeah, so I was wondering the same thing, considering they do have a pretty low ROIC. I spoke with a REIT analyst at Duff and Phelps, and he basically said that better indicator is the cap rates. So the net operating income divided by the cost that you're purchasing these storage facilities at, and taking that into effect along with the debt, it exceeds the WACC, so it's still accretive towards.
Teaching moment for the juniors, well played. He didn't say that he had talked to the Phelps analyst until he needed to come up with an answer to it. Well played, Dan.
Actually, a clarifying question, I don't know if it's just me not understanding this exactly, but what, can you just explain the difference between wholly owned and same-store facilities?
Yeah, so same store are basically facilities that have been added within the last year. So kind of that comparison to the wholly owned is kind of what you can see what's been historic versus more recent.
Hi, Dan, you're not getting off the hook, Dr. Wall.
Well, he's a little bit. He's been in my office a lot on this. And so, one, I want to applaud you for taking on a REIT, especially a challenging one with this relationship. And I think you were wise to stay away from the comparisons. The thing we didn't cover that I'm curious about is of these four comps you choose, and I understand they don't affect your valuation, right? Because we didn't use those models. Are any of them set up under the same structure? Have you found any other REITs that have the same type of SP sharing structure out there?
Yeah, so
And if so, did you try to look at how they compare in terms of comps to those?
So between them, I think like 10 to 20% for some of them is like kind of like where they're roughly at in terms of the OP units is what I saw. I didn't look too far into the SP units, but that's kind of what I saw for the competitors.
So no competitor really operates their business this way?
Yeah,
Okay, makes sense then.
And I know, Danny, you can do this in your conclusion here right now. This type of REIT might be exposed to less business cycle risk. Right. I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but how did they perform self-storage units in the past? Past recessions or downturns?
I mean, they've done pretty well. I touched a little bit about it in my recommendation, kind of how the sectors performed versus the broader S&P. And then specifically self-storage has performed pretty well compared to industrial and residential and some of the other types of REITs during market downturns. So I think they're definitely pretty well established and set for what's ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Danny. All right, one more. Thanks for sitting tight, those of you who started at 2 o'clock. All right. This says that it's an international healthcare stock. It is actually a domestic healthcare stock. Okay? Clarissa, our last presenter of the day.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming today. I will be pitching Cara Therapeutics, ticker CARA. It was founded in 2004 by Derek and Frederick, who really know the space for their whole careers. They previously were working at Arena Pharmaceuticals, where they were developing biotech products. Cara Therapeutics is entering a space where 30 million patients in the United States alone are being impacted by chronic kidney disease, along with people who have not been properly diagnosed. Currently, most patients are not finding relief to their itchiness due to their treatments they're receiving for kidney failure. There have not been very little innovations with their pharmaceuticals that are using to be treated the itchiness for the patients are feeling. Many patients are forced to use allergy medicine to treat their symptoms and not seeing any relief until now. Cara is entering a breakthrough revolutionary pharmaceutical product. Cara's KORSUVA injection has completed phase 3 trial is now entering the stage of FDA breakthrough therapy design. So the dialysis market opportunity is being valued at $104 billion by 2024. Our studies show that 68% of patients who receive the injection saw a significant reduction in itchiness and overall improvement in the quality of life measures. Along with that, the KORSUV oral version is currently in stage 2 for the FDA approval, which is being used to see patients see less liver failure due to chronic kidney disease. Cara is entering into partnership agreements in 2018 alone, where they gained 12 new licensing deals. They entered into a joint venture, which they received $55 million to defer revenue, which will be recognized in 2020. Along with that, they'll be receiving royalties in a double-digit range, the payment based on net sales of their IV KOSRUVA in 2023. Management says that going forward, they will not be commercializing the products alone. They will be looking for partnerships with companies that specialize in products for chronic pain medication. Cara has also received 12 U.S. patents for their CR845, which will be placed in 2020, which will take place until 2027. Along with that, they're entering into the opioid market, which will be $25 billion by 2030. Cara is also expanding their intellectual property for all different parts of the world, which they've noticed that their patents protecting the way that their opioid product will be working through the CNA side of the person's brain, so they won't be receiving as addicting, the addicting side of what opioids normally contribute when being taken on. Now we'll be moving on to our evaluation. I conducted a 5-year DCF model with a terminal growth rate of 1%, a WACC of 13.5, which gave me a price target of 25.86. Along with that, I created a sensitivity analysis, which gave me a price range of $22.23 to $30.45. Additionally, I created a price to sales model, which gave me a price target of $44.42. I rated the models 80-20 with a price target of $29.57, which will give me a 60% potential upside. Cara does not pay dividend. I'll open it up to questions now.
So listen, this company was founded in 2004.
Yes.
Goes back quite a ways. They haven't made money recently, and they're not projected to make money for a few years. So, two-part question. How far back do we have to go to where they did make money in the past?
Yeah.
I assume they did.
So they actually,
And how far do we have to go forward to make money?
so they never really have made money other than through license deals because they have to go through so many rounds of approval, and because there hasn't been any advancement in this field at all for over 50 years, FDA obviously is going to give a lot of pushback, and a lot of companies that are doing dialysis are not going to want them to get approval because they're going to take a lot of the market share. Because I'm sorry, but not a lot of people want to get dialysis. It's just going to give you eventually your kidneys will give up along with the liver.
Okay, and so the second part of the question is, how far forward do we go before the cash flows begin to accumulate?
I said 2023 because we hope that will officially give our final design pattern through FDA, and then we'll be able to continue to start seeing royalties.
Okay, questions? Yeah. Yes, back there, Dan.
Okay, so just taking a look at your comp boxes, it looks like they have a pretty different capital structure
Yes.
than your company. Can you kind of explain how you went about picking these comps?
So I picked them all just because of the fact they're in dialysis, and I know I picked a few international ones too because of the fact that we are getting patents elsewhere, so indicating that we are trying to branch out other than just the United States.
Yeah, I have a few. Just the first one is a follow-up to that question, which was your first year of positive earnings is going to be 23.
Yeah.
So So how high does it have to be for you to, well, do you know what it was for first year earnings? Because there's only 5 years, so your term was giving us all our value on
Yeah.
that.
So it's getting, because we have a lot of deferred revenue coming in, that's all in 2020, and we're gonna start seeing a little bit of it. In 2023, we'll see all of it, and I think in 23, we're gonna positive, I can't think of my model, but I think it was like 7.5, it's just gonna be positive net income. At that point.
All right, and then the other question was on the opiates, with everything that's going on with bankruptcies for the, for opiate, and everyone, basically being really worried in that field.
Yeah.
Are there two things on that, why we would want to be, invested in that area, and then if it reflects poorly on management, that they're deciding to go into this area,
So that,
that is so risky, and they didn't foresee,
yeah, so that's why I said that previously, the way we're getting a pattern is because we're using opioids, but it's not using it the way normally opioids are being used in regular pharmaceuticals. So it's changing the way its brain's processing it, where it's no longer addictive, people are not receiving like all the negative impacts from the taking opioids. It's like not, they won't be nauseous as much, and it's just, that's where the reason why we're doing a pattern for it.
So they made them non-addictive.
Yeah, so it's rechanging the way that the brain is like taking the opioid through.
Can you just walk me through exactly how you calculate your price of sales multiple? Because according to your comp group and the numbers I see, it's showing that you're pretty overvalued. And I just want to know how you got your like 60% upside.
So the 60% upside. So I tried to not use. I only did the 20% for my price of sales because I thought that was just it was too high. So that's why I didn't calculate too much for it. And my comps did have really low price of sales because of the fact that they're selling more, obviously, versus me.
Right. So can you just like walk me how you calculated it? Because you're showing yourself getting upside using it when according to your comps you're overvalued.
Okay, I'll look into that for you.
Okay, and while we're on, Bill's got a question, but Alex brought it up, the comps.
Yeah.
How did you come up with those comps?
So, like I said previously, I did it through the back of the or through the dialysis, and that's what the field we're trying to go into. So that's why I did those.
Okay. What?
Sorry, it's a binary story. Either they're gonna get approval or this. What are the milestones? I brought this up right now.
Yeah.
What are the milestones that we'll be looking at for the next 6 to 12 months that have to reinforce the?
So then, for injection one, for the KOSUVA, I said that we are in the final design phase for that one. So that's going to hopefully take place in 2020 at the end of it, and then it'll slowly be done by 2023.
So that's one milestone,
Yes.
to watch, are there others?
Yeah, so the other one would be the oil version of it, it's in the second trial. So that's going to take probably another few more years for that one. But we're officially in the final stage for the one injectable.
Just for pseudo. I mean, you did your due diligence research, I assume, on what other analysts are saying, potential revenues.
Yes.
When do those revenues start flowing in?
So in 2023, once we start receiving the
Is there a street estimate as to how big that contribution will be during that period?
in double digits for the royalty deal.
They just say double.
Yeah, so they were
Is it
just,
millions?
I mean, is it?
they're doing it first unit sales. So from there, I just did it from the projection of what they were saying in the street, which I can get back to you with my numbers. So I actually did plug those in individually for the percentage of the numbers in the street.
So I know what, Dr. Well will have a question, but right now, this company's losing money,
Yes.
right? Probably not the easiest company to raise debt.
Yeah.
They don't have no assets, right? It's a buying check. Do you know how long they can go at the current run rate or burn rate they're at before they encounter capital issues? Was that discussed at all?
No, but they did recently in July, they did they got more, they released more stocks options, so that's how they raised more money recently.
If options only exercised.
Yeah.
To bring more money. So, do you know balance sheet wise what they have in hand for cash?
For cash, they will have deferred revenues. from which I said for they have 55 different revenues that they'll start seeing in 2020.
Dr. Wall?
So the good news, right, we've got, as Bill said, and I agree, we've got a coin flip situation. They're either gonna get approved and they're gonna be worth a lot of money, or they're not gonna get approved and they're basically not gonna be worth a whole lot of money. So that part is fun with biotechs, right, that's our gambling, the people who like to gamble enjoy that aspect. The part we're gonna try to lightly call teaching moments or talk about things a little bit. If they're not gonna turn a profit until 2023, and the long-term growth rate after that only becomes 1%, then you must have had an insane amount of profit in 2023 to generate this type of value.
Yes.
Those two statements don't match up. So for the people in the room, the teaching moment is if you do have a situation where you don't think the company is actually going to turn profitable until year 5, it is totally fine and appropriate to extend your DCF out a few more years. And it would actually be much better because then the questions you got asked today, you'd be able to handle a little better. Because the natural follow-ups would be, how did you taper off things, right? But if you ended at the moment they very first turned profit, one, typically that's going to undervalue the company.
Yeah.
Meaning what you're showing here doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you went from this, assuming probably 130 or 200% growth to 1% the very following year for your terminal. And that kind of is hard to rectify. So in the DCF, consider expanding it when you do future modeling in these situations. And then price to sales, not to harp on it, when you look at it, I think you might have it reversed, or you might have actually used the price to sales ratio in 2019, because if the price to sales ratio for your company is 40 something and the industry is 2, it actually suggests you're 20 times overvalued. And so something's way off in the math. And so just consider looking at making, be real careful you didn't use the price to sales projected ratio as opposed to actually using the comp ratio.
Thank you.
Great. You want to give us a conclusion and a final recommendation? Make your strongest driver point.
Well, I guess just for the development, the fact that we're getting to the final breaking point for the injection of KOSUVA, I think that's like a really good indicator because it takes so long to go through FDA approval, and the fact that we've made it this far without actually making any sales just shows that the owners are actually doing a really good job and doing something they believe in, and that's like overall better for everyone in the world, not just to make money.
Because you said that this morning, I wanted to conclude on that. This is one of these, we're really rooting for the success of this company.
Yeah.
This can make a lot of people's lives a lot better and can control healthcare costs for generations to come. So, we're rooting for the company. We have to evaluate whether it's a good investment, and that's what you presented here today. So listen, thank you very much. All right, everyone, thank you. Next week is concluded. The process now will be the 5 students will write up summary of what they learned today based on the questions that were asked, and that will be submitted to the seniors this weekend along with the ballot. So we'll have an update on everyone's recommendation, like PJ's working hard over there to address some of the questions that came up when he presented. And we will vote on this over the course of the weekend, and we'll buy or sell stock appropriately on Monday. And that's the process that we follow. So everyone have a good weekend, and thanks for being here.